Hey everybody, Dr. Dan here. Welcome to the desktop lecture for Chapter 1 of History to 1500. And if you didn't already watch my intro video, then you are wondering, hey, what's the deal with the textbook? So as I said in my intro video, and as is listed on the syllabus and hopefully in the bookstore, this class uses what we call an OER, which is an open educational resource, which means it's free. So if you're waiting to get the textbook, you can get it anytime by just clicking on the link in our Blackboard site, and there's also a link in on the syllabus. So there's really no excuse not to have the book. Like if you're waiting for loan money to get your book or they're out of books, none of that flies because you have the book, you have a link to the book, and it's available immediately at no charge. If you do want a printed copy of the book, I believe that's available when you go to download it, and that will cost you. You don't need the printed copy. I don't recommend the printed copy. But if for accessibility reasons or ease of use you need a printed copy, it's available to you when you go get the download. You can follow the links to get a printed copy. So there's that. Assuming you have the book, obviously we're starting at Chapter 1. And again, as I said in my intro video, the difference between history and prehistory. The only time we really talk about prehistory is Chapter 1, and that's what we're starting with. So prehistory, that word prehistoric you've heard, those are the same thing. And the dividing line between history and prehistory is written text. So historians cover societies that leave written artifacts behind, and prior to the discovery of writing, or prior to our modern ability to decipher any writing, then that's prehistory. So prehistory is really the stuff of archaeologists, evolutionary archaeologists. And they're the people that do the digs and dig up artifacts and dig up old towns and dig up structures and try to put a picture together of what we know about human development. So you'll hear this word in the first chapter. They'll talk about hominid bipedalism. Basically what that means is as living things evolve to have two legs and stand upright, that's what bipedalism is. So we're bipeds as we have two legs, whereas your dog or your cat is a quadruped because they have four legs, and there's all sorts of evolutionary implications with bipedalism. One of the biggies is, just by nature of the structure and function of a body, and I'll get into my biology a little bit here, but it is a history class. But just because of structure and function of the body, when a living thing starts to walk on two legs, it necessitates that their pelvis is bigger, just evolutionary wise, to hold the weight from two legs. And with a bigger pelvis, there's also different implications as far as reproduction is concerned. And so the difference is that with a pelvis that's important to support weight, the birth canal is naturally smaller, so human babies come out really small and they can't take care of themselves. So that is important when we're looking at history, because that's one reason we have to cooperate to survive as a species. I mean, human babies can't live on their own, as opposed to, like, I grew up on a dairy farm, so when a cow is born, as soon as the calf comes out of the cow, within a few seconds, the calf is standing up and the calf can eat. So that's really a big difference between bipeds like us and quadrupeds like cows. That's not what this is about, but I thought I'd throw it out there because it's interesting, and you'll read that word, hominid bipedalism. So that's what it is. It means things that walk on two legs. So it's important in this chapter because this chapter is talking about the evolution of Homo sapiens, that's us, and the African savanna. We all start from the same place in Africa. And the chapter talks about the Paleolithic era and the Neolithic era, Paleolithic being older. And again, because of the nature of this history class, you don't have to remember, all these names and dates and that sort of stuff unless I say so. And we don't talk about dates in this class, especially early on, because they don't matter that much. A long time ago, right? So there's some innovations from the Paleolithic era, and there's some innovations in the Neolithic era. And I'm going to kind of talk about those just briefly. Again, you're going to have an essay assignment for this chapter, but if you hang on for about 4 more minutes, I'll talk about that, and I'll give you the answer and show you how to write it, and it'll be really easy. What I want you to take away from this chapter is that these bipeds, these humans, these Homo sapiens, started to change from a hunter-gathering society to a foraging society, and then finally to agricultural societies. And the big difference there is when they talk about agriculture, domestic agriculture, when humans learned that we could plant stuff like, plant fields and grow food, then they started to stay in one place and develop communities. Prior to that time, agriculture didn't exist. Organized agriculture didn't exist. So humans were always on the run. They were hunter-gatherers. They didn't stay in communes. There wasn't communal living in one spot. And it's the same with, if you go fast forward from Neolithic and Paleolithic, even if you talk about Native Americans in North America, for example, hunter-gatherers. Some tribes had establishments and established societies, but most did not. So they were always on the run. So really, this chapter 1 says humans were on the run. They were hunter-gatherers, and they came out of the forest and started to settle in fertile plains and learned how to domesticate grain, which means they learned how to grow, wheat, oats, barley, all that stuff, and then eventually learned how to domesticate animals. So all of a sudden, that's what agriculture is. Agriculture is this planned settlement of Homo sapiens, or people that are raising food together. And it's really important, and the essay is addressing those aspects of this chapter. And so the biggie is, as humans move from these foragers or hunter-gatherers to communal agriculture societies, agriculture not only meant that larger populations were possible because there was better nutrition, better intelligence, because there was a stable food supply, better health, but it also changed the way society worked. Okay, so once you start raising grain, you need people to harvest it. You need people to plant it. You need people to store it. You need people to grind it to make flour. So you start to see this division of labor form in agricultural societies. So that's one difference between an agricultural society and a hunter-gatherer society, is that when agriculture comes to be the way of life, then the division of labor starts. And by division of labor, I mean that certain people are in charge of doing certain things, okay? Really a lot like today. So when you're asked, how did agriculture change human relationships? Well, one of the best answers is always, it created a division of labor because different jobs were specialized all of a sudden. So that's one way that agriculture changed things, all right? It formed these divisions of labor. You could say even started to form classes, if you will. And then the other thing that happened when agriculture became the way of life and communal agriculture is that someone had to be in charge. Generally, there has to be people that plan. There has to be people who can gather seeds. There has to be people who are in charge of settlements. So agriculture doesn't only mean division of labor, but you also start to see social classes. You also start to see leadership. Okay, and you also start to see gender differences, and gender roles come to play out of agriculture. So that's another answer when you're asked, how does agriculture change human relationships? All of a sudden, relationships and gender relationships change, where women begin to master cooking and gathering and weaving from what's left over of plants, if you will, and men begin to do the harder work, and men begin to become soldiers too. As we come out of chapter 1 and get into chapter 2, we start to hear a little bit about military and protection. All right, so read through the notes and come up with one or two ways that agriculture changed things, and you're going to be set for the essay, which I'm going to talk about in a second. There's 5 big points to retain in my reading notes. And I'm not going to go through them right now. You can read them. They're pretty easy. And then I just want to get to the essay. So the essay assignment for this week is a short essay, and it's got one prompt. And the prompt is, describe 2 ways in which agriculture changed human relationships. Okay? So this should be about a paragraph long. It's got to demonstrate college-level writing. If there's anything that sounds like you didn't send it through a grammar checker, or if there's a misspelling, then I'm not going to pay any attention to it. At this point in time, you're in college, you should be able to write a paragraph with proper grammar. You're going to need to use in-text citations, and when you read the assignment, everything that you need to do is on the assignment in Blackboard, even a demonstration of what it might look like. But just make sure you follow the directions. There is a rubric for this essay, and one of the rubric qualifiers, one of the things you have to do is you have to articulate. So that means you have to speak, your essay has to be written clearly. So when I read it, I can understand it. You have to answer the question. So that's the other thing in the rubric. You have to name 2 ways in which agriculture changed human relationships. And then you have to use an in-text citation, which I call a source acknowledgement. You'll see it in my rubric. But when you get done writing the paper, it can be very short. I mean, I can see you accomplish this in 4 to 5 sentences if you were really good. Once you get done with the paper, check it against the rubric, make sure you did everything the rubric says, and then submit it to Blackboard. So what I'd like you to do is write it on a Word document and then upload it into Blackboard. It's really easy to do. Most of you have done it before, but please do it in a Word document so I can make notes when I grade it. That's all I ask. So that's a brief overview of the first chapter, a brief overview of the essay assignment. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. See you next week. Bye-bye.